Have you ever wondered what happens to the thoughts you actively try not to think about, or where a memory goes when it simply seems to fade away on its own? Welcome to our channel, and thank you for taking a quiet moment out of your day to join me here, where our goal is just to explore these everyday mental experiences together, rather than trying to uncover any profound psychological secrets or diagnose how the mind works. We often talk about forgetting as if it is just one simple, straightforward process, but it can feel like there is a subtle difference between a thought we intentionally brush aside and a memory that just quietly slips out of our awareness, creating a gentle curiosity about whether all forgotten things are truly the same. Many people describe the mind as having different ways of relating to the past, and two concepts that often come up in everyday conversation are suppression and repression. We aren't looking at these as medical conditions or proven scientific mechanisms, but rather as helpful, familiar ideas to describe the different ways we experience our own attention and awareness as we navigate our daily lives. When we talk about suppression, it is usually described as something we do on purpose, a very conscious, intentional choice to guide our focus away from something specific. Think about a time when you were trying to enjoy a peaceful, quiet evening with a friend or a loved one, but you kept remembering an awkward conversation you had at the grocery store that morning. To stay in the present moment and enjoy the company right in front of you, you might consciously tell yourself to think about that awkward moment later, effectively pushing the uncomfortable thought away. For the time being, it is a very relatable, deeply human experience, almost like deciding to put a heavy book down on a table because you simply don't have the energy to read that particular chapter right now. This is where the difference becomes clearer. While suppression feels like an active, conscious choice that requires a bit of mental effort, the concept of repression is often described by people as something that seems to happen entirely without our direct effort or intention. It is often thought of as a situation where a thought, a feeling, or a past experience simply doesn't seem to be accessible to our everyday awareness, not because we actively pushed it away in the moment, but because the mind just naturally shifted its attention elsewhere over time. It is almost like a room in a large house where the door has been quietly closed so long ago that we simply stop walking down that particular hallway, and eventually we might even forget the room is there at all. Here's what people often mix up. Because we so frequently use dramatic words like buried, hidden, or locked away, it can be incredibly tempting to imagine that memories are stored perfectly intact inside of us, like old files in a dusty metal cabinet, or photographs in a sealed album, just waiting to be pulled out and examined in their original, pristine form. But memory is actually incredibly complex, wonderfully fluid, and always changing. When we talk about these concepts, it is so important to remember that the mind doesn't work like a video camera, recording perfect, objective footage of our lives. Many people find that memory is much softer, much more delicate, and significantly less reliable than a permanent record. Experiences naturally fade. Fine details shift and blur over time, and the way we remember an event today might be very different from how we remembered it 5 years ago, simply because the person remembering it has changed and grown. This is the part that's easy to misunderstand. It is not necessarily that a forgotten or difficult memory is sitting perfectly preserved, in the dark, waiting to be uncovered or rescued, but rather that our attention and awareness are constantly, beautifully filtering what we focus on, based on our current lives, our current environments, and our everyday capacities. We might avoid thinking about a frustrating upcoming task by distracting ourselves with a simple chore, which is a gentle, everyday form of suppression. Or we might simply not notice that an older, uncomfortable thought hasn't crossed our minds in a very long time. Neither of these experiences means that something is permanently locked away or perfectly preserved, like a time capsule deep within us. Instead, they just show how our minds naturally ebb and flow in what they bring to the surface of our awareness on any given day. Sometimes a memory might drift back into our thoughts because a certain familiar smell in the air, or a specific gentle tone of voice, softly nudges our attention in that direction. But even when that happens, what comes back to us is often a reconstruction, a memory shaped and colored by who we are right now, rather than a perfect, flawless replay of the past. The way we relate to our own history is deeply personal, entirely unique to each of us, and constantly evolving as we move through different seasons of life. Ultimately, the mind doesn't really work in simple, rigid categories or clean mechanical boxes, and understanding concepts like suppression and repression isn't about diagnosing ourselves, forcing conclusions about our past, or treating our own memories as a puzzle that urgently needs to be solved. It is really just about inviting a quiet, gentle curiosity regarding how our awareness moves, adapts, and changes as we go through life, and holding space for the mystery of our own minds. It is perfectly okay that our memories are imperfect, that some thoughts drift away gently on the breeze, while others decide to stay close for a while, because that constant fluidity is simply a beautiful, complex part of the human experience. If this reflection resonated with you, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for being here.